Hi, my name is Kat, or the Fairy Librarian, and welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my TBR for HRCYED 2.0. HRCYED is an acronym that stands for the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. It is hosted by Q from the channel QWERTY. This is the second year that it exists, hence the 2.0, and I very impulsively decided to participate. I made a TBR, and I'm gonna go over it. I realize that lately I've been talking a lot about like books that I'm going to read, and like not much or like at all about books that I have read. But like, it's gonna be fine. This is gonna be the last video for at least until my August TBR. But like, I only have like one more clip to film that I'm gonna film like tonight for the second vlog for the reading all the books that were recommended for my birthday series. So that's coming. I'm gonna film a June wrap up, so that is coming too. It's like, stuff is on its way, I promise. But I did want to share this because HRCYED started yesterday as of filming this. It is now the 8th of July. It starts officially on the 7th of July because that's Q's birthday. But you can like start it on like July 1st if you prefer, like whatever. Just as long as you then also just the end date, so you get like exactly 1 year. So I just waited till yesterday. So yeah, I'll go over the TBR. So it's a bingo board. Here's the bingo board with 25 different challenges to complete, and then each challenge is going to take like a couple of books, and there's like prompts within the challenges to complete them. So I'm going to go over them. The rules for HRCYED is that you can use up to 2 prompts per book. You cannot use DNFs. You cannot use rereads. There is also a system with like points where you get points for if your book hits different like criteria, and then you can like use those points to either be able to count a DNF, be able to count a reread, make it so that you can use 3 prompts for a certain book, or like 1 book for 3 prompts, or like that there is just 1 like book from 1 challenge that you don't have to do. So for example, there is like one that goes like with amount of pages, so like you have to read like 1 book that's like in the hundreds, like get a 200 and 300, and like there's one that's like 700 plus. If you don't want to do that, you can use points, for example, to just say like I'm not going to read a book over 700 pages, and then that is like completed even though you haven't really read a book for it, if that makes sense. There is also bonus prompts. Those are like secret prompts better. There's 1 every month, and they're time sensitive, so they have to be completed within a certain time frame, and then you can either get like an extra, you don't have to read a book for like a 1 book of choice, like you don't have to read it, you can just count it as completed, or like you get extra points or something along those lines. So I'm going to try to do those, but obviously I don't know them yet. I only know the prompt for July, and I'm not going to tell you what it is just in case you don't want to be spoiled for it. I can tell you I started my book for it today. I'm reading Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on Dead Men for it. For the secret prompts though, you can do like 2 of like the regular prompts plus the secret prompt for 1 book. So it's like a little freebie, which is always nice. So this is going to show up twice more. That is why. Okay. With all of the preamble out of the way, if you want more information, the announcement video, as well as, no, just, yeah, well, Q's channel, but like the announcement video, it's on their channel, so like, whatever, will be in the description, in case you are interested and want to participate for yourself. But let's go over the different challenges and the different books. These can change around, or like different books can be picked. I just made sure to have an option for each of the prompts, just because, there's always a possibility that at some point I won't really know something to read, and I can just look at what I have written down here and be like, oh yeah, this was a thing that I had in mind for this. So I always have something that works if I can't like think of something in the moment, especially for some of the harder prompts that could work. In making the TBR, I try to double up as much as possible. Ended up not fully being able to. I think I have like 83 books total. Yes, 83, where like I think there's 8 of those that are only appearing once, but then there are like a couple, there are like 3 challenges that don't have specific books yet, but I'll get to that when I get to the challenges. It'll become clear why. In making the TBR, I started with like the harder, more specific prompts, and then tried to double up with the easier ones, and then I had a few of the easier ones left at the end. But so the order in which I'm going to go through the challenges is just like the order that they are in the spreadsheet that Q so kindly provided us with, to keep track of everything, but not necessarily the order in which I picked the books. So if you're like wondering, okay, but why did you be like this specific book for this prompt? It's probably because I actually picked it for a different prompt, and then it just used this to double up with, or like it was a book that I wanted to read anyway, and I was just like looking what else I had left that it was for. Okay, I'm not gonna go into like an in-depth synopsis or anything for any of these books, because it would be a real day. Like 85 books is already enough, but I will, like give you information on like why it fits the prompt if we need, if it is like clear from like the get-go. Okay, so let's get started. The first challenge is called By the 100s or Read Hundreds, which is what I already mentioned, the like per page count. So you have to read a book that is like 100 pages, that is actually like 100 to 199, and then 200 to 299, 300 to 399, 400 to 499, 500 to 599, 600 to 699, or 700 plus. So I have a couple that I have physically, and I'm gonna hold them up, because there is already enough covers that like editing me is gonna have to put in, and it's already gonna be a pain. So like any little headache that I can save future me, I'm gonna do. So if you like seem like looking where exactly the book is that I need, that's what I'm doing. So for the book between 100 and 199 pages, I have Artificial Condition by Martha Wells, which is the second book in the Murderbot Diaries. You'll see the first book pop up a little later in the video. Okay, so Artificial Condition by Martha Wells, which according to Goodreads has 158 pages. Then for a book between 200 and 299 pages, I have Cold Silver for Souls by Tori Tekken, which is an indie fantasy, which has 286 pages. For 300 to 399, I have The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow, which is a portal fantasy as far as I understand. That is 374 pages. For 400 to 499, I have Babylonia by Costanza Casati, which is a Babylonian myth retelling. It is 404 pages. For 500 to 599, I have Dante 2 by Miriam Borgemans, which is 551 pages. This is a Dutch, well, Belgian actually, but Dutch and then the language Dutch, YA dystopian. It's the fourth book. I'm really enjoying the series. Can't wait to get it as one. Then for 600 to 699, I have Empires of the Word by Nicholas Ostler. This is a nonfiction about like lingua francas throughout history. It's 615 pages. It sounds interesting. And then for 700 plus, I have The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu, which is the second book in the Dandelion Dynasty, an adult epic fantasy, Chinese inspired. First book is fantastic. And it is 880 pages. So that's the by the 100s challenge. The second one I don't have a TBR for, and that is a 24-hour readathon. I can tell you what I'm going to do for this. I will be doing Kirsten's Relax and Readathon that she does every other month. She has like a game board that you can move around to pick activities for the days, which can either be like prompts for books to read or like parts of books to read, or just other activities like go outside, play some music, get a snack, something along those lines. And so I'm probably going to do the August one, which is the first one now, and then this one is completed. I'm really excited. I've participated like kind of, but I've never really used a board before because I always had other stuff to read. So August is going to be the first time that I'm actually going to use the board, which is nice. And so any books that I read during those 24 hours, well, it's actually like from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, like you can't continue the next morning, will be counted for this, and then they can also be like still be used for like one other prompt to double up. So yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna be mood reading depending also on what Kirsten's board gives me, what my monthly TBR says. So it's gonna be fun. Then we have subgenres of choice, so you have to choose a genre. I chose fantasy, and then you have to read from 6 different subgenres within that. So the subgenres that I chose is cozy fantasy, epic fantasy, romantasy, fairy tale retelling, historical fantasy, and then it says like cyberpunk / biopunk was one of the categories that was suggested, so I went with that. So for cozy fantasy, I decided to go with Dragon Along by Joseph John Lee. This is, I don't know what the series is called. The first book is upscaled. It's a cozy fantasy. The first book is gonna show up later. But it's something with dragons. I'm not sure what the second book is about. But I have it for review. Well, both of them. I had the first book for review before it came out, like as an arc, and I still haven't read it, even though the second book is out already. So I need to get to them. So I put the second book here. You're going to see the first book show up later on. Then for epic or high fantasy, I have The Speaking Bones by Ken Liu, which is book 4 in the Dandelion Dynasty. I'm planning to finish out this series, or hoping to finish out the series. Well, reread the first book and then continue on because I never read book 2 this year. So Speaking Bones is the final book. So that will be read too. And for romantasy, I have Bonded by Thorns by Elizabeth Helen, which is a Why Choose Beauty and the Beast retelling romantasy. Especially like Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy has been screaming about it, and I'm wanting to see if it would be for me or not. I've never tried Why Choose. I'm not, like, I have like a basic concept of what it is. But like how exactly it is done, I will be interested in, and like if I like it and all that. So I'm gonna be trying Bonded by Thorns. For fairy tale retelling, I have The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. Like, I'm not sure if it's like a full retelling. The first book is, it's this Wild Swans retelling. This one is kind of moving away, but it still feels very like whimsical and fairy tale-esque. So it is a subgenre. I just don't know exactly what to call it. But it's definitely like a certain niche within fantasy that it fits, that like is different from the other ones, even if I'm not sure what exactly I would call the subgenre. But like, right? And if you've been around on this channel, like, you're probably sick of me telling me that I'm gonna read this book and then not reading it, because I've been saying that I would since 2023. So let's hope that I'm actually gonna do it this time. Then for historical fantasy, I have A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, the first book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, which is set in the Regency era, about this woman who becomes a dragon scientist. And I've heard good things. We'll see if I like it. It's compared to Jane Austen, and I like Jane Austen, so I hope that I will. And then for cyberpunk / biopunk, I went with biopunk, and I'm going to read A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett, the second book in the Shadow of the Leviathan series. The first book is The Tainted Cup, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, I want to give this a go. Then the next challenge is the series Staircase. So for this, you have to read a standalone, a duology in its entirety, a trilogy in its entirety, and then a series with 4 or more books. You don't have to read the entire thing, but like, you have to read at least 4 books in it. So like, if you have like an 8-book series, but you've already read 3, then like you can read the next 4, and that works too. I don't know if you have to, or maybe you have to finish it out. But like, you have to have at least 4 books left. Like, I picked a series that have exactly 4 books left in, so like it doesn't really matter, whatever. So for the standalone, I decided to go with Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, which is a YA thriller where like the main character has a true crime podcast and is like investigating a crime or something. Like, I have a lot of options for standalone, so like, it's, yeah. Then for the duology, I decided to go for, I'm not sure what the series is called, but it's like Daughter of the Moon Goddess and Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lin Tan, which is an Asian-inspired fantasy. I've been meaning to try it. Seems fun. The covers are stunning. So yeah, quite excited for that. Then for the trilogy, I have the Winnowing Flames trilogy. So that is The Ninth Rain, The Bitter Twins, and The Poison Song by Jen Williams, which, like, the synopsis, it never quite sticks in my brain, but I am currently kind of buddy reading it with Kirsten from Channel Reading Nymph and Danny from the channel Danny Dabbles. That is, they decided on a buddy read, and I was like, can I join? And they're like, sure. And they have started, because they've like agreed on a schedule. But my whole doesn't come in yet. It's supposed to come in the day after tomorrow at the latest. So I was like, go ahead, like, I'll catch up, it's fine. So once I get that, I'm gonna be better reading it with them. So yeah. That is the Win-Win Flame. And then for 4 or more, I have the rest of the Throne of Glass series. So that is Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storm, Tower of Dawn, and a Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I kind of fell off this series. I really like the ACOTAR series, but this one I'm struggling with a little bit more. But I would like to finish it this year, so I put it here. We'll see how it goes. Then the challenge after that is called award season. So we have to read books that have either been an entrant, a semi-finalist, a finalist, or a winner in an award of choice. The spreadsheet that we have provided place for 2 winners, 2 finalists, 2 semi-finalists, and 1 entrant, but like you could change it. So I'm not sure if we're like supposed to do those amounts of each, or if we can like do, for example, 3 winners and only 1 finalist. I'm not sure, but I went with just the amounts that the spreadsheet says, just to be sure. So for the awards, I looked at the Hugo Award, the Goodreads Choice Awards, and SBFBO. So for winners, I first have, where is it? Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which has won a Hugo Award. This is by Susanna Clark. And I also have The Wager by David Gran, which had won a Goodreads Choice Award in the year that it came out. Then for the 2 finalists, I need to go get one because it's still over there. I forgot to grab it. Hang on. So the first finalist is a finalist for SBFBO, and that is The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan, which is a Dickens-esque fantasy mystery with some horror. That's what I've heard. I've heard great things about it. The author sent me a copy very kindly, so I'm excited to finally try and get to it. This is the first book in the Riverfall Chronicles. The other finalist that I have was a finalist for the Hugos, and that is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. For semi-finalists, I both have, like, both of them were from the Goodreads Choice Awards. I used, like, you know, a lot of awards do, like, long list, short list. So I did long list for semi-finalist and short list for finalist. So both of these were long listed for the Goodreads Choice Awards. So I have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which is the first book in a fantasy trilogy about a woman who is investigating fairies and writing an encyclopedia about it. And there is some romance too. I think I'm gonna like it. I've heard good things, so I want to try it. And the other semi-finalists is The Seventh Veil of Salome by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, which is a historical fiction. I'm not sure if there's horror in it or not. But like, we are following this actress of color who is playing Salome in a movie. It's like Golden Age Hollywood thing, and you know, racism occurring, I guess, and whatever happens there. I've also heard great things. I have only read 1 book by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, which I really enjoyed, so I'm excited for this one. And then for the 1 entrant, I used SBFBO again, and I'm going to read Becoming a Druid by Mike Molman, which is the first book in the Protectors of Brittany series, and I have a review copy from the author. So yeah, so that was award season. The next is a TBR Game challenge, where you have to either play a TBR game yourself, or like you can watch creators TBR game and like use the same prompts. Now the caveat of that is that you haven't played the TBR game before the start of work yet, so I can't use my own for this. So I'll have to play another one. I'll planning on doing this like probably like October, maybe November. So I'm still debating which one I'm going to use. So like the ones that I'm thinking of are TBR Bluff, which is from the channel Melano Reads. I think that's also pretty like easy to recreate without having to have like very specific things, I guess. I could also do TBR Star Hop, which is from Stephanie's book First. That could be fun. Snakes and TBR Stacks from Covers with Cassidy. Looks fun too. Kirsten, like from the Reading Nymph, she has a TBR game that doesn't really have a name, but that sounds pretty easy to replicate as well. And then there's also the two libraries from Library Unbounded, which I'm wanting to try too. And she has a digital version that's just available for everyone, like a website that you could play with, so that might be easy too. So I'll probably go with like one of those, but I'm gonna decide on that when the time is there, and then I'm gonna play it, and then whenever prompt comes up, that will decide what books I have, so I don't have a TBR for that one either. Then the next challenge is the last 10 years. So we have like the past 10 years, you have to read a book published in each of the years. So for 2015, I went with Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, the first book in a series that I don't know the name of. It's a sci-fi. I know that there's like a POV from like spiders. That is mostly what people talk about with this book. So I'm curious. I want to give it a try, and it's also part of my like reading books that were recommended to me for my birthday project. So I have to read it anyway. So might as well fit it into this challenge. Then for 2016, I have Empire of Storm by Sarah J. Maas, book 5, 6, 5, book 5. In 5, right? Yeah. In the Throne of Glass series. And then for 2017, I did the next one, which is Tower of Dawn. Yeah. I think it's book 5 and 6. I'm pretty sure it is. In Throne of Glass. Whatever, moving on. For 2018, I have The Bitter Twins by Jen Williams, the second book in the Winnowing Flame trilogy. For 2019, I have Raven 3 by Miriam Borgermans, which is book 5 in the Slave series. Book 6 in the Slave series came out in 2020, and so I put it right here, so that is Dante 3. For 2021, I have that one here. Let me look at it. 2021, I have Het Eva-complex by Jeroen Meijer and Jacob Slavenburg, which is the second book in a Dutch thriller series. I quite enjoyed the first book, so I do want to continue. It is like kind of Dan Brown-esque, but also quite different from Dan Brown. I'm not sure how to describe it, but like it's like that same sort of niche, but not as bonkers as Dan Brown. I think that is what it is, and it's just like clearly has like a big passion and deep respect and knowledge of like the things that it's talking about, which sometimes I don't always see with Dan Brown. But like I liked the first book, I want to read the second one, which came out in 2021. Then for 2022 and 2023, we're right back at the Slave series. I really would like to continue it because like they read so fast, and I'm just eating up the story. So I have Raven 4 for 2022 and Dante 4 for 2023, which are books 7, and 8. That's all the books that are out. I don't know if there's going to be more or not. But yeah, that is that. And then 2024, I have Glorious Exploits by Fredia Lennon, which is a historical fiction set during the Sicilian expedition, which is a part of the Peloponnesian Wars, so like ancient Greece. I've only really heard Alan from the Library of Alexandria talk about it, and he wasn't a huge fan. So we'll see, but I put it here. And then for 2025, I have The Other Rare Post by Emily J. Taylor, which is a 2025 release. Like, it's a fantasy. I think it's a standalone. So, yeah. Then the next challenge is called Oldie Adaptations. So you have to you have a couple categories for either a retelling or an adaptation of some kind, and then you can choose whether you consume the source material or the retelling / adaptation. So the first one is a modern retelling of a classic, and I decided to go with Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoa, which is a Pride and Prejudice retelling with a trans main character. It's part of like the Remixed Classic series. That's like a YA thing where like they take classics and do stuff with them to make them more diverse for a YA audience. And this is one of them. So I'm gonna read that. And then we have musical. I'm not quite sure. I put West Side Story as like a Romeo and Juliet adaptation. But like I'm not sure what I'm gonna be. That is very subject to change. That's the one I put here. It's probably going to be like a musical movie for me, because like going to watch a musical physically is where I live. There just aren't that many musicals that I can go see. So yeah, I'll probably like a musical movie. And I yeah, as I said, I put West Side Story because I haven't seen it and I kind of want to, but it could change. Then I have a graphic novel or comic adaptation. I have the French manga version of Pride and Prejudice way over there. I could do that, but that's not the one that I wrote down. I wrote down Sherlock Holmes et les Voyageurs du Temps, which is a French comic, because most of the comics that I read are like Franco-Belgian comics. This is written by Sylvain Courrier and Lassie, which it's the first one in like, there's two. I'll probably read both because like it's only two, like I'll probably read them back to back. But yeah, this could work. It's the Sherlock Holmes retelling, as the title suggests, and there is time travel. So, sure. Then I have a play. For this, I don't have a specific play, but I do have a plan. Those who have been around on my channel for a little longer may remember that like earlier this year, I directed a play that was for a theater festival that my university hosts, and it's an annual thing. So next year, in like April-ish, like end of March through beginning of May, it's gonna be there again, and there is gonna be a bunch of plays that are being performed as part of this festival, and like I'm pretty sure there's gonna be like at least one adaptation of an existing story in there, so I'll watch one of those. But as of right now, like I don't know what those plays are going to be, so that is the plan for that. I just don't know what exact one is going to happen. Then we have a TV show, which for that I put the second season of the Percy Jackson TV show. I quite enjoyed the first season, and the second one is coming out at the end of this year, I believe. So I'll watch that. Then we have a web series, which I wasn't sure what that was, but there was a very helpful link on the FAQ sheet to a bunch of different ones, and I picked one called the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which is, as the title suggests, like a Pride and Prejudice thing. Yeah. I'm not, this is like not the most, I'm not really that interested in web series, but like whatever. I'll watch it. It can't be too long, right? I hope. Then we have animation. For that, I haven't picked a specific movie, but I'm gonna watch like a Barbie movie, because a lot of those are like adaptations of different classics and fairy tales. So I'll go with one of them. I'm not sure which one yet. I'll see that as the time is there. But like, there's only a handful that I've ever seen in my entire life, and even those were as a kid. And I said like rereads, which in this challenge, like rewatching a movie also would count as a reread. You can do them if it's been like over 10 years that you've consumed the thing, which for Barbie movies is the case for me. So I could like, I have all the Barbie movies to choose from. Well, all the ones that are adaptations to choose from. So I'll just see whichever one suits my fancy in a moment. And the last one is a movie, and for that I put Sunrise on the Reaping. For this I'll probably read the source material, which is like the book Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which is the new Hunger Games prequel. I've heard pretty good things. Like at first I was like, I don't need this book. Like I don't want to read it. But like I've heard great things, and I've seen too many like Instagram reels about it. I think I'm vaguely spoiled for one thing. Like I'm spoiled for a thing, but I just don't know how it works. So like I'm excited to see the details of that, because like actually the spoiler is what made me like definitively want to say like, okay, yeah, no, I do want to read this thing. So sometimes spoilers are good. So I'm gonna be reading that. So that's it for the adaptations. Then we have the disability challenge, which is to read 5 books that have disabled main characters, and you need like 5 different disabilities. So the first one I have is The Last Argument of King. We have Glokta. I'm not sure how to like name the way he is disabled, but like he walks with a cane and he has a lot of pain, and he is very, he's been tortured in the past and still like has the consequences of that, both physically and mentally. So he is definitely disabled. I'm not sure how to like name it in a very concise way, but this is the first book I have for this, the 3rd book in the First Law trilogy, which is in grimdark adult fantasy series. Then I have just Neurodivergence, Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. The author has confirmed that it's a historical fantasy romance where the main character like misses half of her soul, and the author has confirmed that it is supposed to be a metaphor for neurodivergence. I don't think she has specified further, so I just put neurodivergence. So yeah, I'm gonna read this. Then I have God Killer by Hannah Kaner, which is also the 1st book in a trilogy. And the main character she only has one leg. I'm not sure if she's, or they, I don't know gender. I assume female author, like female main character, but not, that's definitely not always correct. The main character, I'm not sure if they're born with like only one leg or if they like lost a leg at some point. I'll find out as I read the story, I guess. But I know that at the time of the story, they only have one leg. So that is that. Then I have The Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan, which has a main character that both has ADHD and dyslexia. This is going to be a read for me. I'm gonna have to use some like points for that. I decided to put a last book in this series, which is the Hour of the Olympus series. And it's gonna become clear why specifically this book in the series and not any other ones, because I am rereading the series, and the last book I reread is the first one, so like there's still like a couple books between that one and Blood of Olympus, but it's gonna become clear why I picked the last book for this. And then finally I have All's Well by Mona Awad, which the main character experiences chronic pain. I've heard really good things about Mona Awad, and I've been wanting to try her books for a long time, so I'm excited. This is like probably like her least known and least beloved work, but I'm excited about it nonetheless. Then we have Heritage Months, so you know, a lot of different months celebrating different marginalized identities. Yeah. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 of them here. So let's get into them. So in chronological order, starting like when the challenge starts. You don't have to read them within the month, but that's always nice, you know. So July is Disability Pride. So for that I put God Killer by Hannah Gaynor. Ideally, I wanted to put something here that I didn't use with the disability challenge, but it just didn't really work out that way. So I just put God Killer here. I might find like a 6th book with a disabled main character and like swap one of the two out. Like either the disability print one or the disability challenge one. I could always do that. But yeah, that is God Killer. Then September/October is Hispanic Heritage Month. So for that I put the D7th Veil of Salome, as Sylvia Moreno Garcia is as like Mexican heritage. Then November is Indigenous Heritage Month. I put Plague of Dove by Louise Erdrich. I have a lot of Louise Erdrich books that I want to read, so it could be like a different one. But I just put this one because it is on my 25 books to read in 2025. So like, might as well double up, you know. Then in February it is a Black History Month, and for that I put This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron, which is a YA fantasy first book in a duology with a Black main character, as the cover suggests, and also a Black author, so great for Black History Month. Then for Women's History Month, I have a nonfiction, which is called Inferior: How Science Got Women Wrong and the New Research That Is Rewriting the Story. So this is by Angela Saini. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. But yeah, it's like looking at, you know, whatever what the title says. It's pretty self-explanatory. Then we have Arab Heritage Month, for which I chose The Ashfire King by Chelsea Abdullah, which is the second book in a Middle Eastern inspired fantasy. I will probably reread The Stardust Thief if my friend will give me my copy back, because she borrowed it. I don't know if she's finished yet, which, like, if she hasn't, take your time, but like, I'm gonna need that copy back before I can reread, obviously. But I really like the first book. And so I do want to continue on. Then May is Jewish Heritage Month. So for that, I have The Legacies by Jessica Goodman, which is a YA thriller. I've read one more book by Jessica Goodman, which actually DNF'd. So we'll see if I get on with this one better, because I've heard that, like, the one I read is like her least liked book. So we'll see. Then May is Asian American and Pacific Islander. I think that is what the acronym, it's AAPI. And that's how it is in the spreadsheet. And I looked up what the acronym stands for. And I think that is what it is. But I'm not sure. But for this, I put The Veiled Throne by Ken Liu. The author is Chinese American. So that works. And it also, at least the first book is heavily inspired by some Chinese history. I don't know what the rest of the series is going to be, but at least the first book was. So we'll see. This is the third book in the Dandelion Dynasty. And then for LGBTQ plus Pride, I went with Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake, which is the first book in the Where It Falls series. It is a sapphic romance series. So yeah, I want to try it. I actually started this one already, but like I'm going to have to reread like the 40 pages of this that I've read so far, and then just finish out a series. I've read the second book already in the series. Actually, I did it kind of out of order. But I would like to read the first book and not a third book. So yeah, that's this. So those were the Heritage months. Then we have the Translation Challenge, which is to read 5 books that were translated from any language into any other language. So you're just not reading it in the original language. And then you have to have like 5 different languages that the book was originally written in. So for all these 5, I am going to read them in Dutch. So yeah, the first one is originally written in Japanese, and that is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa, which is a book about a cat. I've heard mixed things about it, so we'll see how I get on with it. There's a lot of Japanese cat books lately. Oh my gosh, like they're really having a moment. So yeah, we'll see how I like it. Then I have The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick, which is originally written in English. There is this thing lately, like I've seen like a couple covers do it, like Dutch translation of English books, where they have like the English cover and just like in really small font underneath like the English title, the Dutch title. And I kind of hate it. Like, for me as a booktuber, it's easier because, like, if there is an English version of a book out, I use the English title. And so this way, like, I don't have to look it up every time. I can just see, like, yeah, The North Wind. But, like, I kind of hate it. I don't know. It's just, why? Why have, like, 2 titles for no reason? It's just, I don't get it. But, like, this is, you know, originally written in English. I'm going to read it in Dutch. Then I have Sherlock Holmes et les Voyageurs du Temps by Sylvain Cordier and Lassie, which is originally written in French. I'm going to be reading it in Dutch. About that comic series, you're going to see it show up 3 times. The reason for that is that it's 2 albums. And so I count them as like 2 books, but they have each have their own title, but I can't remember them ever. So like I just put the series title in my spreadsheet because I knew that if I wouldn't, I would like look at it and like, what the hell is that book? Like I would not recognize the title. So that's why there's 3 of them. That's like you can like double up and have like whatever. You get it. Then, from originally written in Spanish, I have The Athenian Murders by Jose Carlos Somoza, which is, it sounds fantastic. So there's a murder that happened in Plato's Academy, and then there's like a modern day researcher who finds a manuscript about this murder, like a ancient Greek text about this murder, and he starts like investigating it, translated it, all the things, and then he is featured in the text, except the text is like centuries and centuries and centuries old, so how could he be featured in it? Because he didn't exist. It sounds so fantastic. It sounds right up my alley. I really want to read it. So that one. And it's really written in Spanish. So yeah. And then for Swedish, I have A System So Magnificent It Is Blinding by Amanda Svensson, which is a like multi-generational story about like 3 children of a thing, and then they each have their own path. And it sounded kind of absurd from the synopsis. Maybe that's just me, but like it sounded really odd and weird, and I'm excited. I'm interested. I want to know. So those are the 5 books for the translation challenge. Kind of related, but not fully related, is the Around the World challenge. So for each of the continents, we have to read a book that is either set there or the author is from that country. So for North America, I have The Legacies by Jessica Goodman. For South America, I have The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Israel Cordova, which is set in Ecuador. It's a magical realism story that seems very interesting. For Africa, I have Glory by Novalet Bulawayo. Novalet Bulawayo is a Zimbabwean author, and the book is like a sort of Animal Farm-esque thing, but for based on a political thing that happened in Zimbabwe at some point. It sounds interesting. I've been wanting to read it since the moment I heard it exists, so what better time than now? Then for Europe, I have Raymond 4 by Miriam Borgermans. The author is Belgian, which I'm Belgian too, so that's nice. And also there's this glossary in the back, and names of places are different, but there's like section 8 that the book is set in, and then like if you go to the glossary, it's got like part of the world that used to be known as Western Europe or something like that. So it's set in what is now Western Europe, even if it's no longer called that. Then for Asia, I have Take What You Can Carry by Jan Sartor, which, oh, I forgot what country exactly it's set in. Let me look that up. Hang on. Kurdistan. That's where it's at. So, yeah. I have this. I needed this for a different prompt, and I noticed that it's set in Kurdistan. And I was like, sure, let's slap it on here. I don't know a ton about this. But yeah. There we are. And then for Australia, I have The Sirens by Amelia Hart. Amelia Hart is a Australian-British author, but I'm pretty sure she lives in the UK. So I would prefer to have a different author that lives in Australia, but for some reason I couldn't think of any. I know that I have some on my TBR, and I know that like the second I stop filming this, 5 are gonna like pop into my brain. But like I couldn't think of any, so I just put Amelia Hart here for now. But this one will probably be switched out by another author who actually lives in Australia. I could be wrong, actually. Like now that I say that she lives in the UK, like I'm starting to doubt that, and I'm not sure if that's because I actually don't know, or just like I'm scared to like say wrong things. So I like too cautious. I don't know. But whatever. we'll see when I actually, you know, pick a book, like read for this. We'll see what that ends up being. But this one, the likelihood of this one changing is, it's definitely there. Then we have the even bigger rainbow challenge, because just doing like the 7 rainbow colors wasn't enough. We needed to like expand it a little bit. So for red, I have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. For orange, I have Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon. For yellow, I have Foul is Fair by Hannah Kaplan, which is a YA thriller that is inspired by Macbeth, or like a retelling of Macbeth, of a girl who was sexually assaulted, and she like takes on the role of Lady Macbeth, and she's out for revenge. So we'll see. This the premise kind of reminds me of the movie Promising Young Woman, which I actually quite liked. So we'll see if it's similar or not. I don't know, but we'll see. Then for green, I have Half Soul by Olivia Atwater. For teal, that was a hard one. I have Babylonia by Costanza Casati. For light blue, I have Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbard, which is the 3rd book in the Brown Hazard trilogy, which is a series of contemporary romances with Black main characters and just a lot of different representations of all kinds. So I have that. Then for blue, I have The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. For purple, I have Sunrise on the Reaping by Susanna Collins. For pink, I have Best Hex Ever by Nadia Alfasi, which is a witchy rom-com that I'm quite excited about. For black, I have Dante 4 by Miriam Burgermans, book 8 in the Slaves series. For white, I have A Natural History of Dragons. It's actually kind of more like an off-white, but I think it counts, so I'm gonna go with it. For silver or gold, I couldn't find one that's like actually silver or gold, but like we could use gray instead of silver, and so that is Raven 3 by Miriam Borgemans, book 5 in the Slaves series. And then for 7 or more colors, I used Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. So we have, it's a very blue cover, so we have a blue, we have a red curtain, so that is red, we have a green tree here, so that is green, we have yellow in her top, so that's yellow, we have white also in her top, so that is white, we have some like pink purple here between her legs, so that is 6, and then we have brown from the boots here, so that is 7 colors on the cover. So Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, the 3rd book in the Bright Falls trilogy, and a sapphic romance that I'm really excited for. So that is the even bigger rainbow. Then the next challenge is read through a beloved quote. So we have to come up with a quote, any quote from anything. It had to be like a known thing, like from like a movie, book, or like a historical figure, like not just something like your friend said one time, but like something that like other people could recognize. So this was kind of hard for me to like pick a quote, because I'm not a quote person. Like I'm a like funny reference when the occasion calls for it type of person, but I'm like a quote person. So I was like, what am I gonna do for this? And then I was like, I guess I like The Greatest Showman, so I could put like a lyric from one of the songs of Greatest Showman. So I did that, and I decided on A Million Dreams Is All It's Gonna Take. And so for each of the words in the quotes, we have to read a book that has that word in the title, or if you can't find something, you can like spell it out, either per letter or per syllable, which I needed to do with one of these. So for the word A, I have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, the first book in the Wayfarer series, which is like a cozy sci-fi series that is compared to the TV show Firefly, which I freaking love. So I want to read the book. I'm very excited for this. Then we have Million, which kind of threw me for a little bit because like I didn't, million is kind of a specific word, but I found one. I am going to read A Million to One by Adiba Jagirdar, which is a YA contemporary that has been like on the list for ages and ages and so long that I don't remember anything about the book at all. But I have the word million in the title, so I can reacquaint myself with it. Then Dreams, I chose Queen of Dreams by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, which is like, it might kind of like, it from the synopsis, it gives off like literary vibes with like dreams and like someone who explains dreams, and yeah, it sounds cool. I've been wanting to try Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni for quite a while, so why not do the one that has a word in the title that you need for a way too specific challenge, right? Then I have the word is, and I did not expect how hard the word is was going to be, but I did find a book. I picked Foul is Fair by Hannah Kaplan, the Macbeth retelling that I mentioned one challenge ago, but it actually was quite hard. Like, there's not that many books that have the word is in a title. Like, it's, you think it's more common than it is. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Then I have the word all, and for that I picked All Systems Red by Martha Wells, the first book in the Murderbot Diaries. It's novella. It's on my July TBR, so it should be read for me soon. Then the word it, which is also a lot harder than you think, or than I thought. But for that I have A System So Magnificent It Is Blinding by Amanda Svensson. Then the apostrophe S as an abbreviation for is, I went with All's Well by Mona Awad. Gonna, I wasn't able to find, so I decided to spell it by the syllables. So I needed ga and I needed na, where the na had two N's. So for the ga, I went with Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. And for the na, I went with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Rel by Susanna Clark. So, because the author could work too. And for take, I did Take What You Can Carry by Jan Sardo. Then the next is Spooky Creatures. So we need to read books that have various types of fantasy creatures. It doesn't have to be like the exact thing, as long as like for example, like it doesn't have to be like an actual vampire, but as long as like vampire adjacent, it works. So for vampire, I have The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams, first book in the Winning Claim series, because there are these creatures that they feed themselves from the specific tree, but then the tree dies, and so instead they have to feed on human blood. So we have like a fantasy creature that drinks blood, which in my book is close enough to vampires. Especially because I'm not a vampire person, okay? Like, this book, vampire is hard for me. Then for shifter, I put Queen of Shadows by Sarah D. Maas, because both Aelin and what's his name? Like the new love interest that gets introduced in a third book. It starts with an R, but I can't think of the name. They can shapeshift. So, shifters. Then for Magic User, I have Best Text Ever by Nadia Alfasi, because like the main character, or the female main character, is a witch. For Fae Folk, I have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, because obviously fairies are Fae Folk. For Spirit, I have The Ashfire King by Chelsea Abdullah. The first book had like jinn and ghouls, and especially like one character that I'm pretty sure is going to be also decently heavily featured in the second book as well. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be here, but like it could, in case it's not, it could change it. Then for Merfolk, I have The Sirens by Emily Hart, like the title says itself. It has sirens, so yeah. Then for Zombie, I have The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. This is one, well, the prompt of Zombie is one that is going to be, I already mentioned that I did like Vera Wong for the secret prompt. If you complete this secret prompt, you can, you know, there's like one book for one challenge that you don't need to do. And I'm going to use that for the zombie prompt. Like I put something here because like I technically could read it. And like I do want to read The Girl with All the Gifts at some point. I just don't want to do it right now. And like I don't have any other zombie book that I have any interest in ever reading. So I'm going to use this for that. So I won't be reading The Girl with All the Gifts probably. But I put it just for the sake of putting something here. And that's also why I didn't double up with The Girl with All the Gifts of everything, because like, what's the point if I'm not going to read it, you know? And for the Creature of Choice, I went with An Angel as Found in Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. This is also part of my reading books that were recommended to me for my birthday challenge. This was recommended to me by Leandra from the TBR 0. And it has angels and demons. So I decided to go with Angel as my secret, or like not secret, my extra creature of choice that didn't fit any of the other categories. And so, yeah. Then for the next challenge, we have to become the avatar. So we have the 4 elements. We have water, earth, fire, and air, and we have to read a book for each of the categories, and we can do that in one of 2 ways. Either title that has that word in the title, but exactly that word, like you can't use like flame instead of fire or something. No, it has to be like the exact word, or has a representation of that word on the cover. But you can't like mix them up. Like you can't do fire in the title and then do water on the, no, like either all cover or earth, all title. So I went with cover because it was just easier. So for water, I decided to go with The Veiled Throne. You have like on the bottom of the cover, you have like water, like water. I don't know if it's like a lake or with a sea or something, but there's something with water there. So yeah. For Earth, I decided to go with The Sound of Nothing by Nicole Aisling, which is an indie fantasy. There's like a landscape with like mountains and just ground generally. So I felt like that's like enough earthiness to count it for Earth. For Fire, I went with We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal, which is the first book in a duology that I've been waiting to read for a long time as well. And we have the flames on the cover. It's like fire. And for air, I went with The Wall of Storm. We have like a sky with some weathery stuff, which I feel like was close enough for air to count it. So I'm gonna be the avatar by the end of this challenge, which is really cool. Then I have a readathon challenge, and for that we just have to finish any readathon that we want. I decided to go with Game Nightathon, which is hosted by Cleo from the channel Bemused Bookworm. It runs in the month of July and I'm participating anyway. Now, for this, if there is any prompts that we do not complete within like the time frame of the readathon, we have to like still complete that prompt at another time to complete the readathon challenge. So I'm gonna have to read like a full 24 books for this, which is quite a lot. But the way the July version of Game Readathon this year works is that you have to collect these tokens or these icons in the maze because it's inspired by the board game Labyrinth. And then the different like objects you need to collect are your prompts, but you get to interpret them however you want. So I've been really enjoying just like seeing what the prompt is, and I'm thinking of like, okay, how can I make it work for something that I want to read? So I'm not gonna set a TBR for it at this point. I'm just gonna continue to see what else comes up and go from there. So I don't have a TBR for this one either. Then we have animal friends. We need 5 different types of animals, and yeah, a book for that prominently features one of them. So we have house pets, exotic pets, farm animals, wild animals, and zoo animals. And so house pets is going to be like your basic like dog or cat, which is what I chose. I went with the Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa. There's so many cat books I already mentioned, so this could easily be like swapped out for any other Japanese cat book if I end up DNFing this one, for example, which we're gonna hope not. Touch wood, hold wood, but yeah, we'll see. And then exotic pets is like, again, pets, but like a little more, you know, not just like your standard dog or cat. And I went with Upscaled by Joseph John Lee, where the pet is a dragon. For like fantasy animals, we got to kind of like decide for ourselves what category it would be best in. And like in the story, it's like about this person who's like organizing a birthday party for their pet dragon, which is just so cute. And so the dragon is a pet in the story, so like I think it counts, and like it fits more like exotic pets than in house pets, I think. So it works here, and I have this for review, so great. Then I have this mixed up, hang on. I have like in my spreadsheet, I have farm animal and wild animal. So I'll fix it later, whatever. For farm animal, I have Glory by No Violet Bulawayo. Like there's a goat on the cover, but it's like, I already said it's inspired by Animal Farm, so it can have like quite a bit of farm animals. Like I know there's a dictator that's a horse and stuff like that, so like whatever. So there'll be something. And then wild animals is a wild animal that appears in the area where you live, which is not great news for me because like wildlife here is not very we don't have a lot of exciting things. So I went with spider because there are spiders around here. So I did Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Yeah, it was like wildlife here is kind of sad, so what are you gonna do about it? And then we have zoo animals, which is like, you know, animals that don't appear in the wild where you live, but you might like see them in a zoo. And I went with a panda. So I am going to read Big Panda and a Tiny Dragon by James Norbury. I've read like the second book, the second Big Panda Tiny Dragon book, which I really liked. I've read a different book by James Norbury, which is The Cat Who Taught Him. I did not like that one. So I hope that I like this one though. We'll see. Then we have the even bigger queer alphabet. So where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different types of queer identities, like subcategories of LGBTQ plus, that we have to read a book that either the author has an identity or like a prominent character. So first we have gay, and for that I'm going to read The Long Way to a Small Angry Land. There's a lot of different queer characters with different queer identities in here. But I did find a blog that mentioned like specifically a gay relationship. So I'm pretty sure there's gay in here, but it's like, because most people like talk about like just like the variety of queer identities, it's like kind of hard to, know for certain that like there's actually like gay, like, because there's like a male relationship according to like this one blog, but like they could be bi, they could be pan, who knows. But yeah, so I hope it's in here. If not, I'll pick a different book. It's not that deep. I just wanted to double up. I wanted to find something to double up on this one, so, but there's, whatever. Then for lesbian, I have Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. So yeah. For bisexual or pansexual, I have Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane, which is a holiday romance, where the main character is bi and demi, which is also why I use it for asexual. Because yeah, we could use like the umbrella of asexual, like demisexual fits under that. So I use it for both bi and ace. Those are the two prompts I use it for. I'm going to read this around Christmas because it's a Christmas romance. So yeah. Then for transgender, I used More Ardently by Gabe Cole, the character that sort of corresponds with Lizzie Bennett in the original is trans. So yeah. Then intersex really threw me because I was like, do I know any book that works for this? And then there's like this big spreadsheet with options and recommendations for different prompts, which is just oh my god, the moment I noticed that I could, lifesaver. And so I looked what they had for intersex because I literally could not think of anything, and turns out River Solomon is intersex, which I did not know before this. So that works great because I've had Sorrowland on my TBR forever. So Sorrowland, it's a horror book that has been on my TBR for ages, so I'm finally gonna read it, and I'm really happy about that. Then we have polyamory. For that, I picked Bonded by Thorns by Elizabeth Helen, which, as I already mentioned earlier, is a White Shoes romantasy. So White Shoes is kind of polyamory, and there's like a relationship between the different men as well. So it's just like a polyamorous web. I'm excited. I'm curious. We'll see. Then we have non-binary or agender, and for that I went with A Prayer for the Cranberry by Becky Chambers, the second novella in the Monk and Robot series, where we have, I always mix up the main character of this series with Cleric Chi from the Silvering Hill cycle. But no, it's not Cleric Chi. It is Sibling Dex. They're, at least they use they, them pronouns. But so, yeah. It'll be a pretty quick read because it's very short, so, yeah. And then we have Gender Fluid or Two-Spirit, and for that I have Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. I've been told that there is a gender fluid angel in this. I actually only knew that because the reason I even found out her kid existed is because I watched Rescues and Reads' planning video, and they used Small Miracles for gender fluid, which is also like when I found out that there is gender fluid representation in the book. But so yeah, shout out to her for like for first of all introducing me to this challenge, and then also making sure that I could complete the prompt, I guess. So that is the even bigger crew alphabet. Then we have BIPOC authors. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 BIPOC authors, different authors, so like you can't repeat the same author. I tried to make it so that I also don't repeat like what exactly their heritage is. So I tried to like hit all like the big categories. So like I have some Black, I have some Asian, I have some, you know, like all like the big categories. And then within that, like the specific like country / region / ethnic group, I try to like not repeat those either, which I managed to do except for one place, because I have 2 Black authors that I could not find their specific heritage. So if that information exists, it was not, I couldn't find it very easily. So I just put Black. So like technically it is possible that like they're from, you know, but like I could, if the information isn't there, the information isn't there, you know? So, yeah. So, first, I have Behind the Flame by Hafsa Faisal, who is like Sri Lankan and Arab. So we have that. Then we have Queen of Dreams by Trishra Banerjee Devakaruni, who is Indian. We have A Million to One by Adiba Jaigirdar, who is Bangladeshi. I have Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man by Jessica Sutanto, who is Chinese-Indonesian. I have The Girl with 7 Name by Hyun Seo Lee, I hope I pronounced that correctly, who is North Korean. I have Plague of Doves by Louise Erdrich, who is Indigenous American, or American Indigenous. Indigenous from like North America. Yeah. I have Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon, who is Black. I have This Poison Heart by Helen Bayron, who is Black. I have Habitus by Erona Fabias, who is from Curacao, so that's like Caribbean region. You know, Curacao, like the island. I don't need to explain what Curacao is. And then we have The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova, who is Ecuadorian. So, that is a BIPOC author, and I need a break because my battery is about to die, so I need to charge my phone that I'm filming this on. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 challenges left. I got a lot further than I thought I would on just one battery, but so yeah, I will stop filming. I have to start making dinner anyway, and then I will continue this video at a later point when my phone is charged and I have eaten, and I have also drunk something because like my mouth is really dry from all the talking. Okay, see you then. Okay, I have had dinner. I like experimented a little with like a sort of mushroom pasta thing, which was pretty good. It's not perfect. I have like a little changes that I would do to it next time, but I liked it. Like I know how I would change it up, so that's good. But let's finish off the final 5 challenges. So, for the next challenge, we had to pick our favorite HRCYED 1 prompt. I'm like a little, you know, I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna pick for this though. I made a TBR for 1 challenge, but I could very well change it up, so I was debating between complete the genre challenge. I would have to look what exactly that entails, but I think because I read so widely in so many genres. I think that could be a thing that I do. There was also one of like reading a retelling and then the story that, or like a classic and then an adaptation of that classic, like a retelling. I could do that. That sounds fun. I don't know which one exactly I would take, but I could do it. Or there is one that the one that I have the TBR for here that I'm going to go over is 5 books that are either set in or the author is from a country, 5 different, well, each book from a different country that is not the US, the UK, or Canada. So I have a TBR for that. I'm going to go over, so the first one is Belgium. I already said at the Medium Mounts, the author of the Slave series is Belgian, so I have one of the books on here, which is Dante 2. This is the 4th book in that series. So we have Belgium. Then the Athenian Murders by José Carlos Somoza, where the author is Spanish. Habitus by Rona Fabias, where the author is from Curaçao. Well, they're an immigrant in the Netherlands, but they grew up in Curaçao, and like it's a poetry collection, and it's about that experience of, you know, being an immigrant in the Netherlands from Curaçao, and it's divided up into 3 parts, and the first part is entirely about Curaçao. So that's that. Then where is it? Nope. That's Eva Complex for the Netherlands. It is set in the city of Leiden, and also the authors are from the Netherlands. And then for France, I have Sherlock Holmes et les Failles du Temps. So I could have done like more, like it's 4 European countries, which I'm not fully happy with. So like maybe if this is the actual challenge that I do, I'll try to like pick like some more non-European countries. But this is like the list that I did with just doubling up with things that I already had. If I end up doing this challenge, because I might, as I said, switch to something else. Then we have a new releases challenge, and the actual challenge is for every month of HRCYED to read a new release, and you have to read it within 60 days from its release date. Now, if you've been around on my channel for a little while, you know that I don't read a ton of new releases, and you also know that I read a lot from the library, which makes it really hard, if not impossible, to do this challenge, because my library often takes a really long time with acquiring new releases. Like the digital platform, which is like shared between more libraries on just a system I'm part of. It's like a bigger, whatever. They're getting better and better at it. So like I was actually scrolling through some things today, and I like saw a couple of books that weren't available yet, but they said like this will become available soon, and it was like books that were going to be released later this month, and so as soon as it were like released they would be available, but you could like already place holds and stuff. So like they're getting better at it, but not quite to the point that I feel comfortable committing to this challenge. And for instances like this, Q has made like sort of an emergency exit, and that is you can replace a challenge by reading 5 indie or self-pub books that have less than 500 ratings on Goodreads. So that is what I'm gonna do. I forgot to write down how many ratings exactly. I'm gonna look that up real quick, so that's why I'm like typing and looking down. But the first book that I have is Cold Silver for Souls, which as of filming, this has 51 ratings on Goodreads. This is by Tori Tekken. Also, all 5 of the books that I'm gonna list are review copies, because I heard this challenge, was like, that is actually great to like write down like my big backlist of review copies that just keep growing. Because like I do want to read them, but I don't know, like I keep forgetting about them, I guess, or like prioritizing other things like for no real reason. So I'll just use this to give me like an extra push to actually get to some of the review, like indie review copies that I have. Then I have both Upscaled and Dragon Along by Joseph John Lee. This is the first and second book in the Dragons of Nora series. The first book has 143 ratings as of filming this, and the second one has only 16. Then the third one is Becoming a Druid by Mike Mullman, the first book in the Protectors of Brittany series, which at this moment has 167 ratings. And then the last one that I have here is The Sound of Nothing by Nicole Aisling, which has 23 ratings. So, yeah, all well under the 500. And if I read the 5, I can consider the new releases challenge complete, even though I haven't actually read 12 new releases. But the thing is, like, if we just like read 12 books that released between like the start of the challenge and then the end of the challenge, like I would probably do it. It's just like the actual time restriction on it is what is just making it not really possible for me. So then moving on, we have the nonfiction challenge, where we have to read 5 nonfictions, and they each have to be like a different type of nonfiction. So let's get started. I have The Girl with 7 Names by Han-Se Lee, which is a memoir about a girl who escapes North Korea. So we have a memoir, also part of my reading all the books that were recommended for my birthday video. Then I have like, I split up into like history and narrative history, where like the differences, the history category just looks like a broad overview, more like analysis style, like a certain topic over a long period of time, versus narrative history is like one specific story. If that makes, that's like the distinction that I've made here, because I feel like there's like 2 different things. So for history, I have Empires of the Word, a language history of the world by Nicholas Hostler, and for narrative history, I have The Waiter by David Gran. Then I have social justice, feminism, something along those lines, and that is Inferior, How Science Got Women Wrong, and the new research that is rewriting the story by Angela Saini. So that's that. And then I have one that's like anthropology, where like the thing is, the book is Everyday Utopia by Kristen Arigod. See, I feel like this is a different category from Inferior, because like Inferior is just looking at one specific topic in our society and problem in our society and analyzing that in depth, versus this one is just like looking at like at a lot of different societies and just describing what they are like. At least from what I think is going to be it. And just like, I feel like this is more just descriptive, and then Inferior is more analytical. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. So this is how I did it. Those are the 5 nonfictions. I'm quite excited for all of these. Then we have Challenge Yourself, which is if you have like a different reading challenge outside of HRCYED, whether it's already in existence or like there is one more thing that you would like to do, like challenge yourself to do. This is your opportunity. But they say like if there is a challenge that's you already had and that is already ongoing, that like you started and you've like completed part of the challenge, then you can just do like whatever you have left of that. So that's what I did, and I did a Rainy's series Takedown Challenge from the channel Rainy Blue Reads. She has this bingo board for like the challenge is actually for like continuing series, but like I made it for like finishing the series, so like you have to, you know, like not even just catching up on a series, like actually like finishing it for once and for all. And only that counts. So maybe you'll have to read like 5 books to get one spot filled, you know, like stuff like that. So there is 16 spots on the bingo board total. I am running behind on this, which in saying that, like, yes, I wish I should be like with the amount of series I'm technically behind, but like sometimes you need to read multiple books, so maybe I've read like some more books in series rather than, but like not actually finished them, so it doesn't really show up as in the numbers of like the amount of series. That makes sense. Like that's not fully the case. Like even with the amount of books, I'm pretty sure I'm behind on the schedule. I'm reading a lot of standalones in the second half of the year. Like my stats for standalones are like the percentage is very high for me, which is interesting. But like, yeah, I need to get going with that. So I have 12 left. So let's go over them. So the first one is just to finish a series, which in the original challenge is obviously like because you just have to finish or just continue a series. So like this is like separate from the different ones where like in the other ones you could use like book 2 in a trilogy. For this one it had to be the last book, but for me, because it's all finishing, it's just like any series, like no real prompt attached to it. And for that I have The Poison Song by Jen Williams and Wind and Flame trilogy, the last book being The Poison Song. Then for Intimidating series, I put The Dandelion Dynasty, so the final book is The Speaking Bones by Ken Liu. Then the next spot is Favorite Author series. Now this is a little bit hard for me because I don't know that I have really favorite authors. Like I think about it really hard. I probably could think of some, like probably Jane Austen, but Jane Austen doesn't write series, so that doesn't work. So like this was kind of hard for me to think of an author that could work for me. So I decided to just conceptualize this as a book or a series, or no, as an author that I've read this full series, because I do it for finishing series, and outside of this series I have to have read at least one other book by them, and I can't have disliked anything I read. So, for example, that last bit like disqualifies Sarah J. Maas because I really didn't love some of her books. So, that is how I did it. And the author that I have here, I haven't yet read anything outside of the series that I have listed, but I plan to read another book by them soon that is not part of the series. So, I'm hoping that I really like it, and I think I will. And then I can finish the series, and at that point, it will be a favorite author. I hope making sense. The author is Becky Chambers, so the book I have is A Prayer for the Crown Shy, which finishes up the Monk and Robot series, but I plan to read A Long Way to a Small and Great Planet relatively soon-ish. And so once I've read this, and then if I read A Prayer for the Crown Shy after that, Becky Chambers qualifies. Yeah, that's how I went with it because I had a hard time thinking of another. Then we have second book in a series. So for me, that means like finishing a duology. And for that, I put A Redemptor by Jordan Ifwaco, the second book in the Raybearer duology. Then a series you'll think you'll love. So a series I have not started yet. I have to read in its entirety for the challenge. But I think I'm going to love it. I have to read the full thing. For that, I put the, whatever the name of the series is for, like, Daughter of the Moon Goddess. So the book is Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lynn Tan. I think this will be right up my alley. Then, for dual or multi-POV series, I put The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. 5-star rating series. So for this, I put a series where I've given every book 5 stars. Now, obviously, I can't know that in advance. So I have a book here that I predict / hope is going to be 5 stars in a series that I've given 5 stars before, and that is Big Panda and Tiny Dragon by James Norbury. I really like the first book. Not that, which is technically the second book, but I read it first. So I'm going to read the first book, and I hope that this also will be 5 stars, and it is this prompt fulfilled. Then we have series Catch Up, which is the one exception that I allow myself for, like, not really finishing a series, but just catching up on it. And for that, I have Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man by Jessie Q. Satanto, the second book in the Vera Wong series. For this, I did it so that, like, I have to have read at least 2 installments in the series in 2025, which this is the second book in this. I read the first book in February, and so now I'm reading the second one, so that counts. Then we have series influenced by, so a series you were influenced to purchase, which for me means like a series that I own in its entirety, to like purchased myself, because as I said, I read a lot from the library, so that narrows it down to like 2 contenders. And so I went with Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, the third book in the Bright Falls trilogy. I technically didn't buy the first book, I got it for my birthday, but like the other 2 I did buy, so I think it still works. Then we have a pretty cover series. For that, I put The Dragon's Promise, because, like, look at that. It is absolutely stunning. So yeah, the first book also have a fantastic cover, so this definitely works. Then I have TBR Veteran series. For this, I put Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. The Throne of Glass series has been on my TBR since I've been a teenager. So I've been interested in reading it since I was a teenager. So, like, I think it counts as a TBR veteran. And then finally is like Representation series. I went with the Brown Sisters trilogy because there was just so many different types of representation of different things. So the third book is actually Eve Brown. So that is the Rainey's series takedown challenge that I can complete if I read these books. I do have like one spare, well, two spare options. One of them is the Slave series by Medium Boykin, which I plan to finish. The reason though that it's not included is because I'm not entirely sure. Like, I know there is 8 books out currently, and I do plan to read those 8, but I'm not entirely sure if there's going to be more or not. So, I don't want to put it in here to then get to book 8 and realize, oh, the story continues after this. So that's why I didn't put it in here. And then the other like spare one that I have is the Heroes of Olympus series, which is a reread for me. So that's why I put that as like the spare option in case I can't use any of these for whatever reason. But actually I think that like the Last Argument of Kings I'm gonna need for 2 different prompts. So like I don't know that I'm gonna be able to use it for this challenge with HRCYED. So like for that, Heroes of Olympus could take its place. I made sure to put this in a spot where Heroes of Olympus also fit, so I don't have to like zhoosh too much around. If I do indeed need this for 2 other things with like the readathon chat, like the game nightathon thing. So yeah, we'll see. But like it's a reread, so that's why I didn't put it in her as like a main option. But that is also one that I do plan to finish this time, which is also, I said that with the disability challenge you would see why I put the last book here. That's why, so that if I use the points for a reread to make it count, like I only have to count it once to count the book for both these prompts. You get it. And then the final challenge for HRCYED is Q's recommendations. So you have to read 3 books that are recommended by Q, Michelle Cordy, who created this challenge. One of them had to be from a mini review, one of them had to be from a reading vlog, and one of them had to be from a TikTok, an Instagram reel, or a YouTube short. So for the mini review, I went with The Other Bear Post by Emily J. Taylor. This, I already mentioned this in the last 10 years, so I'm not going to go into it. For the full reading vlog, I went with All Systems Red by Martha Wells. And then for the YouTube short, A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. That is full TBR for HRCYED. As I said, I can move things around, change things up. So, yeah. We'll see. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this challenge, definitely, in order to complete it. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. My plan, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some prompts to my TBR game that are HRCYED specific. So I think I made a spinner wheel with all the different prompts. And so I'm going to make one that I just have to spin that wheel and pick a prompt from there and complete that prompt for HRCYED. Or like pick a book that would fit that for my monthly TBR. And then I also think I'm going to make like a separate one from that is just like HRCYED TBR, which is a book that is mentioned in this video for a certain prompt that I haven't completed yet at that point. That is my plan for that. Also, what I think I'm gonna do, I don't know if you watch my TBR games or not, but I have like, it's like Game of the Goose and like the end spot. I've been thinking of doing something like special when I hit the end spot. Because like otherwise like a little bit anticlimactic. So what I think I'm gonna do is make it so that if I get to the end spot, it doesn't matter if I go over. So like say I need 4 more moves to get to the end spot and I roll an 8, then those extra 4, they just disappear. I just end on the end spot. And then the prompt is that I also spin the wheel with the HRCYED prompts, and then for the next roll I start at the beginning again. I think that's how I'm gonna do it. That way it'll keep being on my mind, and I won't forget about it, and that way like the harder HRCYED prompts hopefully will be completed. In my reading vlogs, every time I finish a book, I will probably also mention like the amount of points I get for HRCYED and then what prompts I will be using it for. So next year you'll be tired of hearing me talking about it. But so yeah, that is all there is. I hope you enjoyed if you made it to the end. I'm impressed. So I'll link everyone that I've mentioned down below. I'll link the announcement video down below, as I already said, in case you want to give it a try or check it out for yourself. So let me know if you've read any of these books. If you have recs for me for certain harder prompts, that you're like, you put this book there, but actually read this instead. I might check it out. Also, if you're gonna participate in the hardest reading challenge you ever do, let me know that too. And yeah, I hope to see you again soon in another video.